Hello, my name is Andrew Gomison, and it is my privilege, as always, to welcome you to this edition of the Speaking for Him podcast. I'm truly grateful to be able to come to you each and every Wednesday with encouraging content for the journey that we call the Christian life, because it is a marathon and not a sprint, and we need each other. And I just want to say off the top here that I probably should have had a proviso a few episodes ago calling this the Speaking for Him Film Festival 2026, because it may appear to you that that's all I'm doing these days is film reviews. I can assure you that I have more content coming, so please do not despair if film reviews are not your thing. But I will say this, that I've been very excited that there have been a number of notable films to review as a Christian film reviewer and content creator. So that has made me excited. And so I'm really glad that you're here. And today I will be reviewing the 2026 film from Pixar called Toy Story 5. And so I'm really excited to get into that with you. But before I do that, let's hear our quote of the day. Our quote of the day comes from one of our principal stars, and that is Buzz Lightyear. He says, "Our mission on this planet is to make a child happy." And I really liked this quote because I feel like it does a good job of setting up the film, because the film is actually a contrast between modern tech and old fashioned imaginative play with toys. The toys of Toy Story are faced with the reality that technology may outpace them and render them useless. And I really feel like this is a great premise for the film, and it's a much needed discussion because kids have been sorely lacking in imagination lately. And I noticed this starting about 20 years ago when I worked at a summer camp and taught drama to elementary and middle school students. They just did not know how to come up with stories on the fly. Everything that I handed them as a prop became a sword, as in Star Wars or some other superhero thing that they had seen. And I'm not saying that superheroes can't be a part of imagination, but I just started to see how technology, particularly television, has eroded the imagination. And it's kind of ironic that this would be a lesson found within a movie, but I really think it's an important one. And I think that Toy Story 5 nails it. Here's the interesting thing for me going into this movie is that every Toy Story movie, especially after, I would say after Toy Story 2, from Toy Story 3 to Toy Story 5, where we are now, I kept wondering, will this be the one where Pixar drops the ball and Toy Story is just a money grab and there's not a good story with a message for us? And that is simply not the case. Toy Story 5 might even be better than the fourth one and really holds its own against the whole franchise. So, did we need Toy Story 5? No. But I think it has a lot to teach us nonetheless. So, now let's take the time to get into our main segment about Toy Story 5 from Pixar. So, as we open up a discussion about this film, I think it's important for us to note the cast, many of whom have returned to the franchise. And I'm super excited, particularly for Tom Hanks and Tim Allen, because they saw fit to return for Toy Story 5. They've done all 5 of the films in this franchise, and I really respect that, especially given the fact that there was one point where Tom Hanks says, "I never do sequels." And to my knowledge, he never has done a live action sequel, but he continues to delight us as Woody, the pull string cowboy, and continues to bring his wisdom and leadership in that role to these stories. So I really appreciate that. So I just want to talk about this cast overall. I thought it was very well done. I want to specifically hone in on just a few. Tom Hanks as Woody, Tim Allen, of course, as Buzz Lightyear. I don't remember what I thought when I first heard that Tim Allen was going to play the part of Buzz Lightyear, but I have to say, when you think about who Tim Allen is, him being a space ranger does not necessarily leap to mind, although after 5 films, it's hard to see him not as a space ranger at the same time. Then we have Joan Cusack as Jessie, and I believe, if I remember correctly, that Jessie joins the story in Toy Story 2 or maybe 3. Maybe my listeners can inform me of that, because as I always say, I would really appreciate any feedback you have on the episode. But she's been a mainstay for at least the last several installments of this movie franchise, and so that has been really great to see. I really respect Joan Cusack as an actress, and the fact that she would take the time and opportunity to voice this female counterpart to Woody is heartwarming, and I think Joan Cusack basically slays every role she takes. She's a very good actress. And then the newcomer that I want to talk about is Greta Lee as Lily, which is the Lilypad tablet, who is kind of the enemy in the story, but soon turns into an ally, which I really liked. Because one of the really cool things about this movie is it talked about the dangers of technology while still acknowledging that technology could have its place. And I just really appreciated that balance, because I couldn't do what I do without the various forms of technology that I use, especially as someone who is disabled. But I also know that I would trade my use of technology for human interaction at any point. I much prefer spending time with people than spending time with my technology. But technology also allows me a connection to people that I would not normally have. The ability to do this podcast here at home is directly related to the fact that I have the technological advances, both in the software that I use and also in the high-speed internet I now have, which allow me to produce a high-quality podcast for you, the viewer, and the listener. A year ago, if you were to ask me, I don't think I would have talked about the viewers, because I would have never thought that I could do a video podcast. But now, with my current setup, a video podcast is a reality twice a week, and that's just really exciting for me. So I want to dig into more details about this story, but before we do that, let's look at the trailer for Toy Story 5.
Do you, Forky, take Karen Beverly to be your beloved bride?
Yeehaw! I now pronounce you husband and knife. Who poisoned the maid of honor?
Bonnie, there's a package for you.
Oh, thank you, thank you.
Hi there, I'm Lilypad. Let's play.
Oh, extinction! Not again!
Bonnie, screen time's over now.
Okay.
I want to talk to you, Device.
Please, call me Lily.
Me and the toys have been working all summer to try and get Bonnie to make friends.
Yeah.
But then you had to ruin
Got
it.
it.
You're not even listening to me.
I'm always listening. See?
Now look here. Me and the toys have been working all summer.
No, in Spanish.
Con los gemelos Jordan. Al otro lado del
What?
Yeah, I got dibs on behind the dresser.
Woody,
Jesse, hello?
is it as bad out there for toys as they say it is?
We're finding more abandoned toys each day.
We're down!
Tex invaded our house, too.
I don't know, Jesse. Toys are for play, but tech is for everything.
I'm losing Bonnie to this device.
Came here as fast as I could.
Why are you wearing a dress, Woody?
It's called a poncho, Forky.
Someone needs a brown marker.
Halt! Who goes there?
Whoa, whoa, whoa! I come in peace.
It's been too long, cowboy.
What are you, some sort of old man toy?
What?
She thinks you're old because you're bald, Woody.
Bonnie needs help from someone at least from the same century. So long, toys.
We're gonna need backup.
No way. She's getting away, boss!
Our mission on this planet is to make a child happy.
Bonnie still needs us. Come on, Bullseye!
Buzz, you stay here. I'm going with them.
You don't think I can do it?
No!
Nice poncho.
It's good to see them fighting again.
It sure is.
So that is the trailer for Toy Story 5. So now let's get into the synopsis of this film. So basically, we have Bonnie from the previous iteration of Toy Story. I don't remember if she was in Toy Story 3 as well. I think she might have been, because I think she was the girl that Andy gave his toys to. So I think this is her third Toy Story movie. But in this movie, she's really struggling to make friends. And there's these twins that the toys see, and they want to maybe possibly get Bonnie and these twins to interact. And they look into the twins' house, and they realize that these twins spend all their time in front of screens, whether it be the TV or the tablet. Well, Bonnie's parents realize that she's not making friends, and they also realize that a lot of kids around the neighborhood are using tech like the tablets, so they decide to get Bonnie a tablet. They decide that this is a solution to hopefully break down some walls and help their daughter become friends with other kids. Now, first of all, I want to acknowledge the well-meaningness of this. And I also want to acknowledge Pixar for giving us an intact family and showing the strength of that. We see in both of Bonnie's parents who care. We don't see either parent dumbed down. We see them both doing for Bonnie what is necessary to help her. They care about her. They purposely try to limit her time with her tablet. And they are very sensitive to what happens when Bonnie gets bullied as a result of the tablet and the kids that she interacts with on there. At one point, they give her back her tablet, but they disable the chat. So as we get into this story, we see all of Andy's former toys still together as Bonnie's toys. And we see Bonnie playing at the beginning of the movie with great imagination. We see Forky marrying a knife dressed like a bride. Now, I want to make a statement here because there have been some reviewers that have said that there was some subtle nods to LGBTQ in this movie. And I don't know what Disney's intent was, So I can't say absolutely not. But when I watched it, I just took it as a young girl's imagination running wild. And not everything has to make sense in the way that it makes sense to us in a normal way of life, because we're talking about toys. We're talking about a plastic fork and a plastic knife being wed. And so I truly believe that the knife was supposed to be a female character and that Forky is happily married in the play world. And I would say the same thing about Buzz and Jesse's wedding later in the film, that there's been a lot of speculation as to whether they are making some nods in that direction. But I think that you have to stretch things to believe that. So let's get back to the main premise. So the main premise is that in an effort to get Bonnie more friends, they give her this tablet and she stops playing with her toys. And she actually gets invited to a sleepover, and she decides to bring Buzz and Woody with her on the sleepover. But then the girls that she's at the sleepover with, they're really obsessed with their tech and they think it's crazy for her to play with toys. So they say, don't play with toys. They say that's not a good thing to do. And so she takes it very seriously and she gives her dolls back to her dad and says, bring them home. I don't want them here. And so the toys are trying to figure out what to do because they see this tablet as the enemy and they want to figure out how to help her. So what follows in the next about hour of the film, I think we're about a half hour into the film when this slumber party happens. What follows for the next hour of the film is Bonnie struggling with the fact that she wants to play with her toys, but she doesn't want to appear unpopular. Her parents realize she's being bullied online, so they lock the chat so she can't chat with these people, and they encourage her to enjoy her childhood. They want her to play with her toys. And eventually, she learns that playing with toys is not bad, using imagination is not bad, and she gets a friend out of the whole deal who not only likes to play with toys, but also lives on a farm and has horses. So that's kind of an exciting development. And I really like the way this film talks about, as I said, the contrast between imaginative play and play that is dependent upon electronics. Because here's the reality. I will freely admit that I spend a lot of time with technology every day. But I also know that if I pick up a book, absent technology, I can go to a place I've never been before. I also know that it's far more important to spend time with physical people than to spend time on technology. And so I think it's an important message to send our kids that playing with dolls, creating imaginary worlds, creating, yes, imaginary weddings is an important part of growing up. So I really appreciate that about this film. I think one of the biggest lessons in this film is discovering your place in life and becoming satisfied with it. As our opening quote says, Buzz Lightyear acknowledges the fact that the reason they are on the planet is to make a child happy. And that is the goal that all of these toys have. And so that's the mission they embark upon throughout this film, is to make Bonnie happy by uniting her with this other friend who has similar interests to her. And I think another interesting subplot is Jessie really struggling with her identity because she remembers who she considers her first girl and how she was given away and how she was devastated by it. But then she discovers a lunchbox on the property because apparently this new friend lives at the place where Jessie's Emily lived, and she finds out that Emily named her daughter Jessie. So Jessie the doll meant so much to her that she was willing to name her daughter after the doll. And so that was a really interesting revelation and really helped Jessie's self-esteem. I thought it was cute the way Jessie and Buzz were around each other, especially Buzz trying to get up the courage to ask Jessie to marry him. Of course, this is a fictitious world, so keeping that in mind, but I thought that that was just really interesting. One thing I've always appreciated about the Pixar world is the juxtaposition between humans and others in the movies. And this is one of the reasons why I didn't like Cars as much, because everything in the Cars universe were cars. I think Cars would have been better if there were humans driving the cars, but then later the cars had conversations about the humans, because that's one of the delightful things about Toy Story is these toys, when they are not seen by human beings, they have conversations, they go on adventures, they work hard to get back to their humans. It just gives an enduring quality to the film. And I like the fact that these toys stopped at nothing to help Bonnie. And when they realized that the tablet could help, they were able to get the tablet to cooperate and to realize that she had a place, even if it wasn't the place that she originally thought it should be. And so I think the tablet learned a valuable lesson too, because she learned how valuable these old fashioned quote unquote toys could be. So, and I just like the idea of old fashioned toys because you play with them and they don't need batteries. So time doesn't run out on them. Like the other day, my nephews were playing with Legos, and I was just thinking about how exciting that is to just have a whole box full of blocks and then make whatever it is you want to make out of those Legos. Yes, it's fun in certain respects to collect the Lego sets, but I feel like the real fun comes when you actually take the opportunity to create your own thing and to use your own imagination as you develop products from the Legos. And I think it's really exciting to just watch imaginations flourish because of these little blocks. I have to say that I have an even greater appreciation of Legos because we went to the land of the Lego when we went to Denmark and went to the Lego house, which is a super epic museum that I would highly recommend. And we just had a blast as a family. So I would really encourage you to check that out if you ever have the chance to go to Denmark. So back to our story, there were a couple old tech devices who were played by Conan O'Brien and Craig Robinson, who are famous in their own right. Conan O'Brien as a talk show host, Craig Robinson as a sitcom star with The Office. And those pieces of tech were kind of funny, but there was also some off-color humor involved with their characters, especially since the Conan O'Brien piece was a toilet training technology helper. And so I didn't really appreciate that as much. But it's always interesting how Toy Story manages to incorporate the old guard of the toys, the regular toys that we know and love, with other toys that are new. And of course, especially with Toy Story, I always start to think, well, what of these toys are going to come out on shelves? Because Toy Story is its own tie-in, and that makes it interesting. But I think overall, we see a very good film. As I said, it was great to see caring parents really wanted Bonnie to succeed. It was great to see a caring young lady who wanted to give Bonnie her toys and was really hopeful of being able to do that, and who was really excited when they were able to be friends and able to play together in the good old fashioned way. And it just made me very happy that Pixar was willing to go down that road and have that story as an idea. Because, as I said, um, you always wonder when a movie franchise is going to drop the ball and just be a cash grab. Like, I have to be honest, an example of that, I think, would be D3 The Mighty Ducks. It was a decent movie, but it kind of regressed in its plot from D2 The Mighty Ducks, so it wasn't as good as the other two. The story had a lot of retreads to it. And when you're dealing with the fact that this is a fourth sequel, you don't know how much stock to put in it. But as I said, I think Toy Story 5 was an awesome original story about our favorite characters. And I'm so glad that so many of the stars we know and love continue to come back to this franchise, and that the writers waited until they had an original story to share before they made it. It's interesting to me that Toy Story debuted in 1995, which means that I was 16. Toy Story 5 debuted in 2026, and I am 47, which means 5 films over 31 years, which, even if you average it out, that's an average of 6 years between each film, which in some ways may seem like they're dragging it out. In other ways, it's because it takes a long time to do an animated epic, because it probably takes 2+ years to produce each one. But another reason I think that there is so much time between each one is that I think they are very deliberate with the stories that they tell. And I think because of some of the lackluster offerings from Pixar in the past, that was another reason for me to believe that Toy Story 5 might go south. But we don't see that here. And I really appreciate that. Now, there were some toys and interactions, particularly within the playhouse that Jesse visits, that I didn't really appreciate. It's probably the lower point, if there is one, of the film. But I really appreciate the fact that this was a very good story, and it showed that technology has its place, but nothing replaces imaginative play, which is an awesome lesson. It showed the value of true friendship, which is actually getting to know the people face to face. There was a meme, or a saying at least, that went around the internet for a while and still kind of applies, which is, where are we getting together today to stare at our phones? And I will admit that it can be easy to glance at your phone from time to time throughout a personal interaction, because you always have your phone with you. And there's a mixed bag with that too, because on one hand, it would be nice to turn off your phone for a day and not even look at it. But on the other hand, if it's the only way that people can get a hold of you, then you don't want to be totally disconnected from the people that may need you. So it's definitely a balancing act. And I think Toy Story 5 does a good job of addressing this balancing act, because the tablet at the end of the day realized that she had her place. And I thought Lily was a very interesting character. And I'm so glad that they were able to, like, advance the technology with the times, but still tell an engaging story that kids and adults alike will love. So, all told, I'm going to give Toy Story 5 4.5 out of 5 stars for family friendliness. I really hope that people will go out and see this film, or if it's on streaming by the time you're hearing this episode, please stream it, because this shows people that this is the type of film that we want to see made. Now, I don't remember when this was, but several years ago, I might have even been a teenager at the time, so many, many years ago, I heard a statistic that said that PG and PG-13 movies do the best in the box office. And when this was brought up, the person that brought up the statistic wondered why there weren't more of those being made. If they do better in the box office, why are not Hollywood studios focusing on them? Why are there so many R-rated movies coming out? And that really is a good question. You know, you don't need to have gratuitous violence or nudity to get people to come to your movie. All you have to do is tell a really good story with a really good message, and then invite people to come and enjoy it together. That's really all you need to do. And the other thing I wanted to say is that I believe that every movie preaches some kind of agenda. Because I saw someone in the comments of a discussion thread about Toy Story 5 talking about how we don't need to analyze the messages of entertainment, because sometimes you can just go to a movie and be entertained. There doesn't have to be a message. And well, in some respects, I might tend to agree with you. The reality is that there isn't a movie that has been made that doesn't have some kind of message or worldview that it wants to impress upon the viewer. So the question is not, does this movie have a message? The question is this movie's message something I can support and get behind? And is it something that my kids should be seeing? And I think in the case of Toy Story 5, it's a much needed message about the need to balance our use of technology and the need to reinforce children's imaginations and let them be kids as long as possible. And I think it's an important message. And I hope that as many of you as possible will watch this movie with your families and have that important discussion if you have not already. Well, that's what I have to share with you on today's edition of the Speaking for Him podcast. I truly appreciate each and every listener. Please feel free to share this with your family and friends. That's how more people find out about what I'm doing here at Speaking for Him. And I do have a lot more exciting content up and coming for you. And so I don't want you to miss any of it. So please, as I said, share this with your family and friends, maybe 3 to 5 people who have never heard any Speaking for Him content before. And also, you can share your comments, questions, and concerns with the contact information that's about to roll at the end of the show. With all that being said, have a great week and keep serving the best of masters.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. Your host has been Andrew Gomison, founder of Speaking4Him. For information on today's show and to leave us comments and voicemails, please visit Speaking4Him. That is speaking numeral 4 him.blogspot.com. You can find Andrew's ministry at speaking4him.com. That's speaking the number 4 HIM.com. And when you look for us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or all other major podcast platforms, let us know what you think of the podcast by leaving a rating and a review. Intro music for this podcast is provided by Audio Kraken. Transition music is provided by Superstate. Both of these tracks are available free of charge from pond5.com, pond5.com.